Kurdish forces have liberated Mount Sinjar in their largest military operation against the so-called Islamic State in northern Iraq. The strategic advances freed hundreds of civilians as scores of IS militants were either killed or fled the confrontations.
Liberating Sinjar was a steep mountain to climb, but not impossible. After months of planning and preparation, Kurdish forces managed to secure Mount Sinjar from the grip of the so-called Islamic State. Peshmerga forces took control of most of Snuni, which was the latest remaining IS stronghold north of Sinjar, as they began liberating Yazidi villages. At least 100 militants have been killed and another 100 arrested. Kurdish forces also secured Tel Afar mountain as militants from the so-called Islamic State fled to the Syrian border. The offensive was described as the most successful by Kurdish forces.
ISIS elements are starting to flee and leave the area. Their morale is very down, and this is one of the biggest operations. Actually, I could tell that this is the biggest military operation that so far has been conducted against ISIS, and this is the biggest victory of the Peshmergas in this war.
Peshmerga forces began pushing their way into Sinjar after breaking a months-long siege, freeing hundreds of people. Sinjar lies west of the city of Mosul in the Nineveh province. Capturing the town paves the way for a push toward the fallen city and securing a large part of the Iraqi-Syrian border. As Peshmerga fighters pushed in from the north, IS militants were forced to flee to the Syrian side of the border. Trapped on Mount Sinjar, a valley of death awaited these Yazidis. Members of the religious minority group have been fenced in by the so-called Islamic State militants who have shown no mercy to Iraqis. Now that the mountain has been retaken from the grip of IS, many are hoping that the latest advances will lead to a full and final liberation of Iraq.
Political analyst Baiaty joins us now for more on these latest developments in Iraq. Mr. Baiaty, how significant is this victory in Mount Sinjar?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for this opportunity from Baiaty TV. Of course, Sinjar liberation is important step for both the Iraqi government and Kurdish forces. As we know, the liberation of Sinjar reflect the victory of blood to injustice power represented by ISIS and an Islamic State. It is also represent the victory of, as we have seen before 3 months in Amerli, group of civilians never give up and surrendered to ISIS, and they were fighting with their own weapons and depending on their own fights and militant and fighting the ISIS with simple aids from Iraqi government and Kurdish government. I mean the Yazidi fighters there, because as we know, last few months and 6 months, the fights in Sinjar were depending just on these soldiers. Yes, lastly, the victory and especially this liberation of Sinjar and surrender have been done by aid of Peshmerga and Iraqi Golden Troops.
And to what degree does this pave the way for the liberation of other significant cities?
Yes, it will give the way for liberation of other regions and cities, because the location of Sinjar is very important, as it is the main connecting line with the Syrian border, and it is the main supporting location for the ISIS to other regions of Mosul and even nearby Mosul.
And this offensive has been dubbed as the most successful for Kurdish forces. What does this say about their capabilities?
Yes, the Kurdish forces, as we have seen in the last or in early few months of this fight, they failed to protect and keep the life of such civilians in Sinjar and other regions. So they regained this powerful face, and the victory, of course, will be regarded for them, but not alone. It is also considered a victory for Iraqi army and even victory for Yazidi fighters here in Sinjar.
Okay, political analyst Baiaty there. Thank you very much for your time with us today.
Thank you.